You never really believe your own family could turn on you until they do. Growing up, I always thought we were a close-knit family. My mom, dad, older sister Kelsey, and me, Samantha. We weren't perfect, but we had traditions. Taco Tuesdays, movie nights, vacations in the same rusty cabin by the lake every summer. You'd think all that time together would strengthen our bond. But sometimes, closeness just gives people more opportunities to quietly twist the knife. It started subtly. I didn't even notice it at first. Kelsey and my parents would go quiet when I entered the room. I'd catch glances fleeting, unreadable. I chalked it up to paranoia. Maybe I was sensitive. Maybe they were just in bad moods. But the feeling lingered, like I was somehow intruding in my own home. Things escalated when I got engaged to David. He's kind, stable, dependable, the kind of man my parents should have been thrilled about, but their smiles never quite reached their eyes. Kelsey outright sneered the night I announced the engagement. She lifted her wine glass and said, "Well, I hope you're sure. Some people just aren't cut out for commitment." I laughed it off, but it stuck with me. Kelsey always had a way of disguising her barbs as jokes. That night, David took my hand under the table. His thumb rubbed against mine, like he could feel the tension, and was silently reassuring me. A week later, I was disinvited from a small family dinner. Kelsey told me they needed to talk about Mom's health privately, and I shouldn't worry. I understood at first. My mom had high blood pressure and recently had some dizziness episodes. But then I saw the pictures on Facebook. They weren't talking about health. They were celebrating Kelsey's job promotion at some fancy restaurant, smiling, toasting. No mention of me, no invite, no apology afterward. I confronted Mom gently. I asked her why they hadn't included me. She barely looked at me when she said, "You've been busy with the wedding stuff, sweetheart. We didn't want to overwhelm you." Overwhelm me? With a dinner? I started questioning everything, every interaction. I replayed past conversations in my head, dissecting them for clues I might have missed. Had I done something? Said something? Was I really being paranoid, like they all seemed to imply? Then came the bridal shower, or rather, the bridal shower that wasn't. David's mom and sisters had been planning it with me. They were lovely, warm, helpful, inclusive. I assumed Kelsey and my mom were working on a separate shower with my side of the family. But a week before the date I gave them, Kelsey called me. Her voice was clipped, irritated. "You should have told us you were doing your own thing. We've been working on a surprise shower for weeks." I was floored. I had no idea. I'd never been told anything. I tried to explain that I hadn't meant to step on their toes, that I assumed they'd tell me if they were planning something. She sighed loudly and said, "You always have to control everything. It's exhausting." That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't about the shower. It wasn't even about David. This was something deeper. A shift that had happened behind my back while I was too busy planning a life. But the real fracture, the undeniable, irreversible blow came 3 nights later. David and I were having dinner at home when my phone buzzed. A voicemail. It was from Aunt Janice. I didn't pick up right away. I didn't want to be rude at the table. But curiosity got the better of me. I stepped into the hallway and listened. What I heard changed everything. It was a voicemail left by accident, clearly. Aunt Janice must have meant to hang up. But instead, I heard her laughing in the background with my mother and Kelsey. The audio was crackly, but clear enough to catch every cruel word. My mom's voice. She always plays the victim, I swear. "Samantha thrives on drama. Kelsey, just wait until David figures it out. He'll leave her. She's good at pretending, but she's exhausting behind closed doors." Then Aunt Janice, I give it a year. Tops. She's like a ticking time bomb. They all laughed, deep, ugly laughs. I stood there frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear. My ears were ringing. My legs went numb. It wasn't just gossip. It wasn't teasing. It was contempt, pure, calculated cruelty. David must have seen something on my face because he rushed over, asking what was wrong. I handed him the phone with trembling hands. I couldn't even speak. He listened to it twice. His face grew dark. When he looked at me, his eyes were full of anger, but not at me. He wrapped me in his arms and said, "I don't know what's going on with them, but I know you. And none of what they said is true." I nodded, but the tears were already coming. I didn't want to believe it, but how could I deny it now? The next day, I called my mom. She picked up cheerily, like nothing had happened. I told her I got a voicemail from Janice and that I'd heard what they said. She went quiet for a second, then laughed nervously. "Oh, honey, you know how we get when we've had wine." It was just venting. Everyone vents sometimes. Venting. I told her it sounded like hatred. That it felt like hatred. She scoffed. You're overreacting. Always so sensitive. You need to stop making everything about yourself. I hung up. For days, I spiraled. Should I play the voicemail for everyone else? Should I confront Aunt Janice and Kelsey? I even considered playing it at a family gathering. Like some twisted Mick drop. But part of me still held on to this fragile hope that anyone would come to me first. Apologize, explain, take accountability. Instead, they doubled down. Kelsey posted a cryptic status the following week. Some people just can't handle not being the center of attention. A snake emoji. I knew it was about me. And when I clicked on the comments, I saw mutual friends chiming in with laughing emojis. One even said, "You always knew how to spot them, Kels." I felt sick. But the final straw, the moment I knew I had to make them hear the truth, came during my cousin Michelle's birthday brunch. I hadn't planned on going, but David encouraged me. Said maybe it would be a chance to smooth things over. It wasn't. The moment I arrived, conversations hushed. Kelsey looked me up and down like I was something she scraped off her shoe. My mom gave me a half-hearted hug. No one mentioned the voicemail. No one apologized. Instead, they acted like I was some fragile drama queen who had fabricated the whole thing. That's when I pulled out my phone. I looked straight at my mom and said, "Since you all think I'm overreacting, let's let everyone hear what I'm reacting to." And I hit play. The room went silent except for the harsh, bitter voices echoing from my phone speaker. My mother's face went pale. Kelsey opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Janice spilled her mimosa, and Michelle, bless her, looked at them like they were strangers. I didn't wait for the end. I stopped it after Aunt Janice's ticking time bomb comment and said, "So, am I still overreacting?" No one answered. I walked out. David followed. My hands were shaking, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. But that was just the beginning. What followed next was uglier than I ever imagined. Retaliation. Lies. More. Manipulation. I thought exposing the voicemail would set things right. I had no idea it would blow everything apart. After I played the voicemail at Michelle's brunch, the silence that followed was deafening. Not a single word of apology. Not even a gasp of disbelief, just the dead weight of being exposed. Caught and too prideful to admit it. David and I got into the car and drove in silence. I stared out the window, still reeling from what I'd just done. My heart pounded against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Did I go too far? Was it petty? Was I just as dramatic as they claimed? But when David reached across the console, held my hand and said, "You did what they never expected. You stood up for yourself," I felt a wave of relief. No, it wasn't petty. It was truth. And truth, especially when inconvenient, is always met with resistance. I wasn't prepared for how vicious the fallout would be. That night, my phone blew up. First, a message from Aunt Janice. "I don't appreciate being humiliated in front of the family. If you had an issue, you should have come to me privately. That was classless, Samantha. Classless." I wanted to scream, but I didn't reply. I just left her on read. Then Kelsey. "Wow. Way to make everything about you. You've always needed to be the victim, and now you've alienated the entire family. Congrats." I should have ignored her too, but I couldn't. "You're mad I exposed you. That's not victimhood. That's truth. You just didn't think I'd ever stand up for myself." No response. Just a blocked notification the next morning. She had cut me off like I was the problem. The worst came from my mom. A voice message this time. Of course, her voice was cold, measured. Not the kind of message you'd expect from a mother to her daughter. "You embarrass me." Whatever was said, it was said in private. Families argue. Families vent. You've turned it into a public spectacle. And now, everyone is uncomfortable. "I don't even know who you are anymore." That last sentence echoed in my head for days. "I don't even know who you are anymore." I wanted to scream. "That's because you never really tried to know me." But I didn't respond. I couldn't, not yet. Instead, I focused on the people who did see me. David, of course. His support was unshakable. And to my surprise, Michelle. She called me the next day. "Sam," she said softly, "I'm sorry. I had no idea they were talking about you like that. I always thought you guys were close." "So, did I?" I replied. My voice cracked. Michelle sighed. "Kelsey's always had this mean streak. I guess I just didn't expect your mom to join in like that." "Neither did I." She paused. "Listen, I don't want to take sides, but I want you to know I see what they did. And you weren't wrong to play the voicemail. They needed to hear it." That small shred of validation meant everything to me. It was like someone had reached into the pit I was falling into and grabbed my hand. But then came the smear campaign. Over the next 2 weeks, subtle posts started appearing online. Not from Kelsey, she had blocked me on everything, but from others in the family. Vague status updates, snide comments under old photos. Some people just love to stir up chaos. Always knew she was high-strung. Not everything needs to be a production. My name wasn't on them, but it didn't need to be. Everyone knew. And more importantly, they knew I knew. At first, I tried to defend myself. I posted one single message. Funny how people accuse you of being dramatic when they're the ones doing the acting. I'd rather be honest and alone than surrounded by fakes. That post got me 5 likes and 20 unfollows, including my cousin Nate and my mom's best friend, who had known me since I was a toddler. I wasn't just being iced out, I was being erased. David noticed how quiet I had become. I stopped talking about the wedding. I stopped laughing. I spent hours scrolling through old photos, trying to pinpoint where it all started. When love turned into judgment, when warmth turned into whispering. He sat next to me one night and said, "Let's postpone the wedding if you need time." I shook my head. "No. If anything, this makes me want to marry you sooner. You're the only one who makes me feel like I'm not crazy." He kissed my forehead and whispered, "You're not crazy. You're brave." Still, a part of me clung to this ridiculous hope that maybe my mom would reach out, really reach out, not just to chastise or guilt trip, but to talk, to see me. That hope shattered during the family group chat incident. Even though I had been the subject of gossip and betrayal, I hadn't left the family group chat yet. It was a mix of aunts, cousins, my parents, and a few distant relatives. I stayed in, mostly silent, just watching. Then someone, Aunt Teresa, shared an old photo of me, Kelsey, and my mom from a family BBQ. Everyone was smiling. I had no idea she'd even taken it. It was a nice memory. Until Kelsey commented, "Back when we still had patience." Then someone else replied with a laughing emoji. And then my mother chimed in. Those were simpler times, before the drama. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. They knew I was in the chat. They wanted me to see it. It wasn't just passive-aggressive, it was intentional, cruel, strategic. I left the group chat without saying a word. I cried for an hour after that, ugly, messy sobbing. David held me the whole time, whispering, "You're better than them. You don't need their approval." But it wasn't just about approval. It was about betrayal. This wasn't some friend who drifted away. This was my mother, my sister, the people who were supposed to be my home. And they had made me feel like a stranger, like an embarrassment. I finally started therapy. I'd resisted it for so long. I thought I could handle it all on my own. But the weight was suffocating. My therapist, Dr. Renna, was soft-spoken but piercingly insightful. After the sessions, she said, "It sounds like your family has created a narrative about you to avoid taking responsibility for their own behavior by labeling you dramatic. They don't have to confront their own cruelty." That sentence stayed with me, replayed in my head as much as that damn voicemail. Narrative. That's what it was. They painted me as the unstable one so they could feel better about being awful. They made me the villain in their story because it was easier than looking in the mirror. That realization sparked something in me, a flicker of clarity in the fog of betrayal. I decided I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wrote a long, heartfelt post on my private blog. One only friends and family followed. I told the whole story, not angrily, not out of revenge, just truthfully. I explained the voicemail, the comments, the group chat. I even shared a redacted transcript of the voicemail, cutting out only the worst profanities. I ended the post with this: "I didn't want to start a war. I just wanted to understand why the people I loved felt so comfortable demeaning me behind my back. If standing up for myself makes me dramatic, then so be it. I'd rather be dramatic than silent." That post exploded. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me, saying how proud they were of me. Strangers shared similar experiences. Some even admitted they'd been manipulated by their own families and told they were too sensitive when they finally pushed back. But more surprisingly, some of my family members reached out. My cousin Ethan messaged me, "I never liked the way they treated you. I'm sorry I stayed silent." And then Aunt Teresa, "I didn't realize how toxic it had gotten. I'm sorry for not stepping in. You didn't deserve any of that." Small steps, small cracks in the wall they'd built around me. But my mother, my sister, silence. Not a word. Not even an attempt to defend themselves anymore. It hurt, but it also helped. Because now I knew where I stood, and there was power in that clarity. But things were far from over. Just when I thought the dust had settled, and I could finally begin to heal. I got another voicemail, one I wasn't supposed to hear. And this time, it wasn't about me behind my back. It was directed right at me. And what it said, it would change everything again. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when my phone buzzed again. I almost didn't check. It was a Saturday morning, and I wanted to savor a few hours of peace. But the notification said voicemail from Mom. My stomach twisted. I stood there, frozen, phone in my hand. Part of me thought, maybe this is it. Maybe she's finally going to apologize. Maybe she wants to make things right. I put the phone on speaker and pressed play. My mother's voice came through, but it wasn't warm or apologetic. It was icy, calculated. Samantha, I've seen your little blog post. I can't believe you're airing family issues to strangers online. You've embarrassed us. I don't know what you think you're accomplishing, but I'll tell you this, if you don't take it down, you're not welcome at Thanksgiving, or Christmas, or any family events, ever again. She paused, then her voice hardened. You think David will want to marry someone who can't even keep peace in her own family? Don't think he won't realize what a burden you are. You're on your own if you keep this up. The voicemail ended. I sank to the kitchen floor, phone still in my hand. The tears came hard and fast, hot, bitter, and relentless. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My mother had drawn a line in the sand, submit to silence, or lose my family entirely. David found me there minutes later, sobbing. He scooped me into his arms without asking a single question, just held me until the storm passed. When I finally looked up at him, he asked quietly, "You want to take the post down?" I shook my head. No, if I take it down, they win. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to please people who don't even respect me. He nodded, eyes shining with fierce love. Then we stand our ground. That afternoon, I drafted an email to my mother. I didn't want any more voicemails, any more misinterpretations, any more twisted retellings. I wanted my words in writing, permanent and unalterable. Mom, I received your voicemail. I understand that you're upset, but I refuse to take down my post. I refuse to pretend your words didn't hurt me deeply. I love you. I always have. But love does not mean accepting cruelty or manipulation. It does not mean sacrificing my mental health to keep the peace. If you're ready to have an honest, respectful conversation, I'm open to it. But until then, I need distance. This is my boundary. Samantha. I reread it 10 times before I sent it. My hands trembled, but when I hit send, a strange calm settled over me. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I was standing up for myself, and that was enough. Family lines redrawn in the weeks that followed. The family divide became undeniable. Some relatives reached out quietly, expressing support but unwilling to get in the middle. Others doubled down. Posting thinly veiled barbs online about disrespectful children and entitled millennials. Meanwhile, my mom went on a campaign to rewrite the narrative. I heard from Aunt Teresa that she was telling people I'd always been unstable, that I had a history of exaggerating and making mountains out of molehills. It was surreal watching my own mother craft a version of me so foreign. I barely recognized myself, but through therapy, I learned something invaluable. I can't control what they say. I can only control my own actions. That realization set me free. Slowly, I began to reclaim my life. I dove back into wedding planning with David. We made new choices, a small ceremony with only the people who supported us unconditionally. I deleted old group chats. I unfollowed cousins who left nasty comments. I curated a circle of friends who lifted me up instead of tearing me down. It wasn't easy. Every time I saw a photo of my family gathered without me, a fresh wound opened. But each time, the bleeding stopped a little faster. Each time, I reminded myself, they pushed me out, but they couldn't break me. The unexpected alley a month before the wedding, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Aunt Janice. Her voice was shaky. Samantha. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I nearly dropped the phone. Of all the people I expected to apologize, Aunt Janice was dead last. I don't know what came over me that night. She continued. It was ugly. And hearing it played back, I couldn't sleep for days. I've been too ashamed to reach out. I stayed silent, letting her speak. She took a deep breath. I know an apology can't undo the hurt. But I want you to know I've told your mother she was wrong, that she needs to own what she said. She didn't react well, but I tried. I blinked back tears. Thank you, Aunt Janice. That means more than you know. We talked for an hour. It didn't erase what happened, but it was a glimmer of hope that not every bond was beyond repair. A wedding without the more wedding day arrived. Sunny skies, a crisp breeze, and not a single forced smile or tense silence. Michelle was there, smiling wider than anyone. Aunt Teresa came too. And Ethan, who'd quietly supported me from the sidelines. We laughed. We danced. We celebrated love without a shadow hanging over us. As David and I exchanged vows, I realized something profound. This wasn't just the start of a marriage. It was the start of a life where I would never again dim my light to make someone else comfortable. It was the start of a life where honesty and kindness mattered more than tradition or appearances. It was freedom. The last conversation 2 weeks after the wedding. I got one last message from my mother. I saw the wedding photos. It looked nice. I hope you're happy. If you decide you're ready to apologize for how you've handled things, you know where to find me. That was it. Not a word about regretting what she'd said. Not a hint of accountability, just a veiled demand for my apology. I read it twice, then deleted it. I didn't need to respond. I didn't need closure from someone who wasn't willing to face the truth. Where I am now, it's been 6 months since that final message. I won't pretend it's been easy. Grieving a living parent is a unique kind of heartbreak. The temptation to reach out to seek reconciliation still tugs at me some nights. But I remind myself, peace without honesty isn't peace at all. I've learned that family isn't defined by blood alone. It's defined by mutual respect, love, and a willingness to grow together. By that measure, I have a beautiful, loving family now with David, with friends who've become sisters, and with the relatives who chose empathy over gossip. As for the voicemail that started it all, I kept it, not out of spite, but as a reminder, when people show you who they are, believe them, and believe yourself. I'm not dramatic. I'm not overreacting. I'm someone who finally found the courage to stand up and say, enough. And I will never let anyone make me feel small for speaking the truth again.